You're watching Screw It on SuppleWine. I am your host, Mike Supple. Over the last week, I took a friend's suggestion and I watched just about the entire first season of the TV show Friday Night Lights on TiVo. This is actually a fantastic show. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you get out there and check it out. It's about a high school football team in a small town in Texas, and it's great whether you like football or not. My fiance has been watching it and loving it, and she can't stand watching football, so that's just how it goes. Interesting thing though, when I was watching this show, I noticed they drink a lot of wine. This struck me as a little bit confusing because I've never really thought of Texas as a wine drinking state. I thought of it more as a beer state. Now maybe this is just a problem that I have, but then again, at a bar a couple of years ago I was drinking with some friends and we ran into a guy from Texas, just got into a conversation, and at one point broke down talking about what there is to do in Texas. And I asked him, because I've never been, I was curious. He looked straight at me and said, "There's only two things to do in Texas, drink beer and rodeo. And I don't rodeo. Champion of beer drinking." And well, that guy wasn't lying. He could put them back. Again, that just fed my opinion. Texas is a beer state and that's how it is and it's never going to change. But TV doesn't lie. So, after watching this Friday Night Lights and seeing everybody drinking wine, I figured I had to check this out. I had to investigate a little bit further. Turns out, Texas is all about the wine. In fact, the first vineyard established in North America was in around 1662 by the Franciscan monks in what is now the state of Texas. They've come a long way since then, of course. Texas now has about 177 commercial wineries in their state, and that's really been expanding a lot in the last few years. Since 2000, there's been an expansion of over 300% in the number of commercial wineries in Texas. Along with those increase in number of wineries, of course, production has gone way up. Over the last 7 years, there's been a 30% increase in production of wine, and Texas now is the 5th ranking state in terms of production in the United States of wine, which I find rather impressive. Along with that production, they are actually drinking a whole ton of it. Texas is the 4th state in the country when it comes to wine consumption. Now you might think to yourself, okay, well maybe it's just a few people getting together and drinking all those boatloads of wine, but that's not true. Even though they're the 4th largest state in consumption, they're only the 36th per capita, which means they got a whole ton of people all drinking a little bit of wine. It's not just going to the same people and over again. Incidentally, side note, the number 1 per capita wine consumption in the U.S. goes to the District of Columbia. So in case there's any lingering doubts in your mind of how politics gets done in our country, it's all drunken. Getting back to Texas consumption, we're going to look at the straight numbers here. From 1998 to 2007, they had almost a 50% increase in consumption. That is a lot of people drinking wine right now in Texas. They went from 10 million cases consumed in 1998 to a 50% increase almost. 14 million cases of wine consumed in 2007. That is just a boatload of wine. And it's not all their own wine. They're not just sitting around drinking Texas wine, which I personally haven't tried, so I can't speak to it yet. I'm curious. I'm going to go out there and try to find some. It's tough to find that in California, competing with the California wine market, but I'll take a look to see what it's all about. But they're actually with the country, or maybe even leading the country, when it comes to consumption of imported wines. 27% of the wines consumed in Texas are imports. That's just a really staggering statistic. Turns out there are more than 2 things to do in Texas, so if I ever run into that guy in the bar again, I'm going to have to let him know. There's drink beer, there's rodeo, and there's drink wine. So screw it. Embrace your inner Texan this week and get out there and enjoy some wine. Maybe have a little barbecue, whatever works for you. Go Longhorns.